Hey guys, it's Gina. Welcome to the place where your growth meets mine. Let's talk. Every person you'll ever meet is living inside a story about who they were, who they're capable of, what kind of person they are, and what kind of person they're not. Some of these stories are expansive. They say, I am someone who figures things out. I am someone who grows. I am someone who, despite everything, keeps going. And some of the stories are small. They say, this is just who I am. I am not the kind of person who does that. I've always been like this. That's just me. Here's what nobody tells you. Those two sets of stories produce completely different lives. Not because of talent, but because of circumstance, because of the identity. When psychologists talk about identity, they're not talking about your name or your job title or your nationality. They're talking about the answer to a much deeper question. Who do you believe yourself to be at your core? That belief operates like a thermostat. It has a set point, and whenever your behavior rises above that set point, success, achievement, recognition, the thermostat kicks on and pulls you back down. And whenever you fall below it, failure, loss, humiliation, it pushes you back up. This is why lottery winners often return to their previous financial state within a few years. Why people who lose a lot of weight often gain it back. Why people in destructive patterns find their way back to those patterns even after long stretches of change. The behavior was modified, but the identity, the thermostat, was never changed. The construction of self, with the psychologist William James, often called the father of the American psychology, wrote it that the self is not a fixed thing. It is a process, a continuous act of construction. He said, the greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitude of mind. This was radical for his time, and it remains radical today because most people experience their identity as something that happened to them, not something they were actively constructing. And we're getting deep here, but you are always building your identity. The question is whether you are doing it consciously or by default. The narrative itself, the neuroscientist Antonio Damasio and the psychologist Dan McAdams have both written extensively about what McAdams calls the narrative self, the idea that the human brain is fundamentally a story-making organ. We do not experience our lives as a consequence of events. We experience them as a story with characters, with themes, cause and effect, and most importantly, a protagonist, which is you. And like all protagonists, you have a character that you believe you are on. And the tragedy is that most people's character was written for them by early experience, by family, by culture. You have probably heard of Carol Dweck's growth mindset research. The distinction between believing your abilities are fixed versus believing they can develop. It's important work, but I want to go one level beneath it, because even people who intellectually accept a growth mindset often have a fixed identity story running underneath. They can tell themselves, I can learn new skills, but simultaneously believe I'm not the kind of person who succeeds at things like this. And that belief about capability and the belief about identity are different layers. You can believe that you are capable of growth while still believing at a deeper level that you are fundamentally not worthy of the outcome that growth produces. That's the layer we need to get to. The I am statements. The most powerful words in the English language might be I am, because whatever follows those two words your brain treats as identity, not preference, not behavior, identity. I am bad with money. I am not a morning person. I am someone who struggles with relationships. I am not creative. I am not athletic. I am anxious. Every one of those statements is a cage that your brain will work very hard to keep you inside, because the brain, more than it wants success, happiness, or growth, wants to be right. It wants its model of reality to be confirmed, including its model of you, so it will unconsciously guide you toward choices and interpretations and situations that confirm the I am statements that you have been making. So where did your identity story come from? In most cases, most moments of high emotional intensity in your past. The experiences that were painful enough, significant enough, or repeated enough to leave a mark. The moment you were told you weren't smart. The relationship that ended and confirmed your worst fear about yourself. The failure that happened publicly and wrote a story about your ceiling, or the version of yourself that someone close to you seemed to need you to be, and that you became because love felt conditional on it. These moments wrote chapters in your story, chapters that you may still be living out decades later, as though they are still the current chapter, as though that moment is still now. It is not. But your identity doesn't know that, unless you tell it. One of the most profound ideas in the existential philosophy, from Sartre, from Camus, from Simone de Beauvoir, is the concept of radical self-creation. Sartre's famous line, "Existence precedes essence," meaning you are not born with a fixed nature that determines your life. You exit first and then you create your essence through your choices. Through what you do with your existence that you have been given. This is liberating and terrifying. At the same time, it's liberating because it means you are never stuck. And it's terrifying because it means that you cannot blame your history forever. At some point, the authorship of your story becomes entirely yours. Viktor Frankl survived the Holocaust, lost almost everyone he loved, was stripped of every external freedom, and he wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." If he could choose his identity in those conditions, what are you and I capable of right now with everything we have? The identity shift process, an identity shift is not a decision you make once, it's a direction you commit to, and then prove yourself through action over time. And here's how it actually works. Step 1, author the new identity, decide who you are becoming, not who you wish you were, not who you'll be someday, who you are in the process of becoming right now. Write it in the present tense. I am someone who creates consistently. I am someone who faces difficult conversations. I am someone who builds things. Make it specific enough to be real and broad enough to be an identity, not just a simple goal. Step 2, find the evidence that already exists. Your past is not only made of moments that confirm the old story. Look harder. There are moments, perhaps small, perhaps overlooked, where the identity or the new identity was already present. The time you pushed through something hard, the time that you were creative under pressure, the time that you were braver than you felt. Those moments are already part of your story. They are evidence that the identity that you are choosing is not invented. It is being recognized. So step 3, take identity consistent action once you have named the new identity. Ask in every relevant moment, what would this person do? Not what do I feel like doing, but what would the person that I am becoming do right now in this moment? This question short circuits the old story. It gives you a different narrator to listen to. And every time you act in alignment with a new identity that you cast a vote, and votes accumulate into a landslide. The sociologist Nicholas Christakis has shown through decades of research that our identities, behaviors, and even emotions are deeply shaped by the people in our network, not just close friends, but friends of friends, 3 degrees of separation out. If you are trying to become someone new and everyone around you is deeply invested in you remaining who you were, you will face a headwind that is real and relentless. This does not mean abandon everyone that you love. It means consciously add people to your life who reflect the identity you are moving towards. People for whom the thing you are trying to become is already normal. Forgive the old story. This is the part that most people avoid, and it is perhaps the most important one. The old story served you. It was built out of real experiences, of real pain, of real attempts at protection. Before you close the chapter, honor it. Understand why it was written. Feel whatever grief or anger or tenderness is there. Because if you try to shift identity through sheer willpower, through pushing the old story away, it will push back hard. The part of us we reject tend to run us from underground. But if you integrate it, if you say, I understand why this story was written and I'm ready to write the next chapter, the shift becomes sustainable because it was built on honesty and not avoidance. You are not a fixed thing. You are not the sum of what happened to you. You are not permanently shaped by the worst moments, the harshest voices, or the most painful chapters. You are the author. Often the only story that truly matters, and the most important thing an author can know is that the story is not over, that the next chapter has not been written yet, that there is still a space on a blank page for something that has never existed before. Who you were is not who you are is not who you must become. The shift begins the moment you decide to take the pen back. I want you to hear this in the comments. Tell me, what is one I am statement that you are choosing to rewrite starting from today? Even writing it once in public is the beginning of the new chapter. Hi guys, it's Gina. Welcome to the place where your growth meets mine. I'll see you next time.